And we'll call to order the City of Cottonwood Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting at the Cottonwood Community Center. In our regular meeting for Monday, June 15, 2020. Cassidy, would you please do the roll call?
Commissioner Hart. Commissioner Dowell.
Here.
Commissioner Maston.
Here.
Commissioner Sherman.
Here.
Vice Chairman Dowling.
Here.
Chairman Williams.
Aye. Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes of our May 15th, May 18th meeting, I'm sorry. Do I have any additions, corrections, deletions, anybody in those minutes? If not, I'll make a motion they be approved. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, we don't need a roll call for that. Informational reports and updates, Mr. Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commission. Welcome to our new meeting location for now. I don't really have anything to update the Commission on at this point. If you have any questions or concerns on your end, feel free.
Any concerns on our part?
Yeah, if you have any questions, concerns, or anything
No, I don't have any. Anybody else?
No, sir.
Okay, that's all right. I have a number of slips here, and we need the agenda item, and whether you're opposing or supporting these projects, I've got 4 of them here that need to be completed, please. Thank you. Okay. At this time, we have the call to the public. That's for anybody who would like to address the Commission on any item that's not on the agenda. I don't have any slips for that. Is there anybody who would like to speak to the Commission on any matter not on our agenda? Okay. That being the case, we'll continue on. We don't have any old business, so our new business, the first order is a CUP 18009 modification of the Belfry signage for the Belfry Brewing Company on the building next door. No.
I'll get it.
James, are you
I'll get it
on?
eventually.
No problem.
Thank you, Chairman Williams, members of the Commission. This first item this evening is conditional use permit 18-009 modification. The original conditional use permit was approved in December of 2018 for the development of the Belfry Brew Pub, which is right next door to where we are located right now. One of the conditions, stipulations of that approval was that they return to the Commission for approval of their sign plan. So this modification tonight is fulfilling that stipulation of their approval for their sign plan. So as I stated, this is a building just to the south of us here, next door. It was approved by the Commission December 17th of 2018. Originally constructed as a church, and over the years has been used as various different operations, including the rec center, other churches, etc. The major renovations, as you can see, are to the interior and the exterior of the building. The site is currently zoned C1, and it is in the Cottonwood Commercial Historic District. The request for the conditional use permit, as I stated, was a condition of the commission. The way the code reads is they would be permitted to have two signs facing each right-of-way. The way the building is positioned, there are sort of two main street frontages that has, which would allow this facility to have 4 signs. One of the provisions in our code is to come to the Planning Commission for a conditional use permit if they are wanting to exceed the quantity of signs as permitted by code. So in this case, they are requesting 1 additional sign. Based on those 4 signs that would be permitted, they could have 200 square feet of maximum signage. The request that they have is for 135.6 square feet divided between the 5 signs. So they are in quantity exceeding what the code allows. In square footage, they are lower than code allows, with one minor exception, and I'll go over that in a couple minutes. So these sections of the code that are identified are what allows, gives Commission the authority to approve the quantity or the square footage, and gives you the flexibility based on the sign plan as it is requested. So as you can see, there are 5 signs. This little site plan here identifies where those would be located on the site and on the building. The first sign, 43.3 square feet, is the main sign above the main entrance. The second sign would be located on the secondary entrance that is facing on the side of the street, also on Main Street, but along the side of the building. The third sign would be located on the back side of the building, facing the parking lot over to the north. And this sign, a cantilevered sign, is the one where there is a minor difference between what code allows. Code allows a 24 square foot cantilevered sign. In this situation, it's a 25 square foot sign. So the square footage of this one individual sign does exceed what the code allows for cantilevered signs. And they will be having a monument sign out in front that will be stating, it'll be a manually changed text on there. It's not an electronically lit message sign. It is electronically lit, but it is not a message sign that has changing text, you know, as you were to drive by and see different things popping up. It will be different over time, but it will just be for their specific specials that they're offering. A couple of the situations we were dealing with when we were looking at this property is it is within the commercial historic district. The historic district boundaries have their own sign code requirements, generally for those buildings that front along the right-of-way along Main Street. This one is on Main Street, it fronts on Main Street, however, it is not adjacent to the right-of-way. So we sort of had gray areas in the code that we felt the conditional use permit was the best way to address what they were asking for. Some of the adjacent properties, this would be to the west. Just looking down the street in a couple directions, is looking towards the ball field. This was the original construction of the church in 1928 when it was constructed. And these are some of the pictures of the building before the renovation began. as you can see, it needed a little TLC. So now this is recent, these were last week, and even since then there are additional changes made, but you can see the changes that are occurring. So that concludes what I have to say. Are there any questions from the commission regarding
What's the total square footage of the sign?
136 or 135.6?
Okay, and what's the maximum allowed for?
200.
200, so it's within that, even though we have the extra signs.
Correct.
And technically, I guess you might say they could have 4 signs, but basically we're asking for an extra sign?
Correct.
Okay.
But they are falling below what would be permitted by square footage, yes.
Okay. Commissioner Dale, any questions?
No, sir.
Any questions?
No, sir.
Nope. Questions?
None from me.
Okay. Is there anybody here for this that needs to talk to us?
Yes, Robert Conlon is here if you'd like to address him with any questions.
Good evening, members of the commission.
Your name for the record, please.
My
sir.
name is Robert Conlon.
Okay. You have anything else to add, or you just trying to get signage around the building for the various angles?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And our blade sign actually is 24. It's 12 by 2. So it's within the allowable cantilevered sign.
Could it be? Yeah. All right. Very good. Any questions of the applicants at all?
No, sir.
Just about the monument sign, it says it's going to be LED internally illuminated. I assume that's going to be within dark sky guidelines. I was going to ask, how illuminated is it going to be?
That question would be better directed at Jason Keller. He's the owner of Signs 928. He's doing our signs package.
Hi, Jason Keller with 928 Sign Company. Yeah, everything's going to follow dark sky. The main thing is the monument sign is shielded, so there's not going to be any light modules visible or anything like that. It's just going to lightly shine through and allow it to be readable at night.
Okay. That was it.
That it? All right. Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
standing.
Vice Chairman? Commissioner?
No questions.
Okay. Very good. I don't have any sheets from the public. Does anybody in the public want to address this? Yay, nay, whatever, before we close the floor? Don't see anybody. Therefore, I'll close the floor to the public. Mr. Dow, you want to start us off, your comments and feelings on this?
I like the signs, and obviously it's going to be under the allowable by quite a bit, so I don't have any issue with it being 5 signs.
As long as it's within dark sky, I like it. I think it's a big improvement.
Right.
Go forth.
Mr. Sherman?
I like the signs. I think they add a lot of interest to the building, and I think the building looks amazing. It's going to be a real asset.
Vice Chairman?
Yeah, for me, it's just about the numbers, and they're under on one and over on the other, so it kind of meets in the middle. I think that will work.
Yes, I think they're excellent signs, and I can understand, particularly with that parking lot in the back, you have a little sign on the back. That's your extra sign when it really comes to it, so I don't have any problems either. Vice Chairman, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, real quick,
Yes.
sorry. To answer Commissioner Maston's question.
Oh, okay.
They do have to submit a separate sign permit, and we will check that against the dark sky ordinance.
Check the lumens.
Make sure that they're within the limits, so we do have that check in place.
I trust them
Yes.
for now.
Trust and verify. Vice Chairman, I'll entertain a motion.
All righty, I will entertain making one. I move to approve CUP 18-009 MOD to allow Robert Conlon as Belfry Brewery to install signage as requested by the proposed sign plan, subject to the following stipulations. 1, that the project conforms to the Code Review Board comments for CUP 18-009 dated August 21st, 2018. and any comments from prior, current, and future reviews of the project shall be adhered to. 2, a certificate of zoning compliance documenting the completion of conditions shall be issued prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy. 3, a right-of-way permit shall be obtained from the Public Works Department prior to any work or landscaping in the right-of-way. 4, the monument sign shall maintain a minimum distance of 5 feet from the leading edge of the sign to the property boundary. 5, building permits shall be applied for within 1 year from the date of approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission, or the conditional use permit shall be subject to revocation procedures. 6, the City of Cottonwood reserves the right to revoke the CUP, conditional use permit, if the use creates an irredeemable public safety problem as determined by the city. 7, any other stipulations the Planning Commission deems necessary.
Do I have a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Mr. Maston seconds the Vice Chairman's motion. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Dowell?
Aye.
Commissioner Maston?
Aye.
Commissioner Sherman?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Dowling?
Aye.
Chairman Williams?
Yeah, unanimously carried. Very good. Onward with our next item of business, which is CUP 20004, a request for a conditional use permit to allow keeping of livestock and installation of a barbed wire fencing on a parcel of land located at East Cottonwood Street and Cove Parkway at southeast corner. James?
Thank you, Chairman Williams. As you stated, this is a conditional use permit allowing livestock to be kept and the barbed wire fencing on a 3-acre parcel located at the southeast corner of East Cottonwood Street and Cove Parkway. The ranch property is located adjacent to it. You can see the site at, I can't get that. Well, I'm not at the right angle here to get that to show you. Roughly behind the Safeway Sawmill Cove Shopping Center. So there are 2 reasons why the conditional use permit is required. One is the keeping of the livestock. The other is barbed wire fencing. Subject 3-acre parcel is an expansion of the existing ranch property, which is in Yavapai County. The border is right there, and this 3-acre parcel is within the city limits of Cottonwood. The subject site is presently vacant, and it does meet the requirements of the code that livestock could be maintained on a parcel greater than 3 acres, which in combination with the rest of the property does exceed that, as well as identifying that it is barbed wire fencing and the location where it is along the perimeter of the site. In the packet that you received, there was one email in opposition, which came from the management company of the shopping center to the south. Since those packets were distributed to you, I have received 3 other emails, and so I'd like to read those briefly into the record. The first one from Ken Sellers. I received your notice concerning this matter. Thank you. I strongly believe it would be in the best interest of the City of Cottonwood, nearby residents, and nearby mall tenants to deny this request. Depending on the concentration of livestock, it comes along with waste, odor, and flies, which is not desired elements of all the above mentioned. This could lead to many complaints and the like down the road. Mr. Paget, I have witnessed this very same situation play out in the area where I live, and believe me, it's not worth it for all that's involved. I would like to be able to attend the hearing, but it is quite a hop to Cottonwood from Southern California. If you think I could give you any helpful input, please feel free to contact me. The next email received in reference to assessor parcel number 406-04034G of a request for a conditional use permit to allow the keeping of livestock and the installation of barbed wire fencing in a C1 zone. We are the homeowner of 2 rental units at Sawmill Cove, and we want to go on record as strongly opposing keeping livestock and installation of a barbed wire fence. This is a potential health and safety hazard that will adversely affect the resale property values and potentially affect the water quality of the grown water due to animal waste and the air quality due to the livestock. As homeowners, we strongly oppose planning and zoning regulations. We are not able to attend this meeting in person, therefore we want to go on record as strongly opposing the regulation. Thank you. And that is from Robert B. and Genevieve Trujillo. The last letter was one received this afternoon. We're writing this letter in unequivocal support of the above referenced request for conditional use permit by Grosseto Ranches, LLC. We own and have operated a multi-tenant commercial building with an upstairs residence at 723 Cove Parkway, adjacent to property owned by Grosseto Ranches since 2002. This property is approximately 300 feet south of the subject on Cove Parkway. Additionally, we co-own and manage a commercial property at 807 to 813 Cove Parkway, which also borders Grosseto Ranches property on the east. In over 20 years, we have never had a single problem with odor, animal waste, flies, or any other issues concerning grazing of livestock adjacent to our properties. Grosseto Ranches has been an exemplary neighbor and has consistently kept their property clean and unobtrusive in any respect whatsoever. We are confident that the property for which the conditional use permit is requested will be managed with the same levels of the good stewardship that we have personally witnessed and experienced for nearly 2 decades. Moreover, Grosseto Ranches has improved the subject property by fencing it and having removed literally truckloads of garbage and debris left on this property by area vagrants. This has both rendered the neighborhood more secure and has greatly reduced the potential fire hazard which existed prior to Mr. Grosseta's ownership. Mr. Grosseta's appropriate grazing reduces weeds and brush, and in fact, we and our tenants actually enjoy the rural atmosphere which Mr. Grosseta's grazing cattle provide. The cattle's presence has assisted Michelle on more than one occasion to secure a new tenant, which actually makes them an amenity in our real estate experience. But for previous commitments, we would be present in person to fully support the application of Grosseto Ranches and hope that you would instead accept this letter in support of this application, which we wholeheartedly recommend. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us, and that is Rudy and Michelle Stadelman. So those are the 3 that I read, in addition to the one in your packet was the correspondence that has been received by staff. So with that concludes my comments.
Jim,
Is there any questions? Yes.
There was comments in that last letter. Can you address the problems with that property as it existed with trash and homeless situation? I understand it's been sort of an eyesore and a headache for the city.
Yeah. It is a little different than the livestock and the fencing issue, but yes, there has been a significant amount of code complaints regarding trespassing, as well as debris that has been left and dumped on that site. It's a very, visible site when the trash is there. So it has been an ongoing code enforcement action for quite some time. So since he has gone in and fenced and cleaned up the property, there have not been any code complaints regarding the debris and vagrants.
Commissioner Dow, any questions of Jim?
No, sir.
No.
I don't have any questions.
Vice Chairman, any questions?
Not at this point.
Good. Okay, I see Mr. Grosseta is here
Yes, he is.
to address us.
Thank you. My name is Andy Grosseta. I live at 625 South Mount Mingus Road in Cottonwood. I think Mr. Padgett pretty well explained the situation to you. The property joins our ranch headquarters. We've been on that property since 1936, and that's the headquarters for our cattle ranching operations. There's been a terrible, terrible problem, as was alluded to in the past letter that he read to you regarding just vagrants, transients, whatever you want to call them. There's a wash that runs behind the Safeway Shopping Center that runs through this property and then down through our ranch headquarters property. And over the years, it's gotten progressively worse with the homeless. The owner there approached me and said he's had about all the fun that he could stand, and we did too. And he said, you ought to buy this property, Mr. Grosetta. And we really weren't in the market to buy the property. But he made an offer to us, and so the rest is history. We cleaned, he had a dump truck, the previous owner, filled that dump truck up, and we took out between 8 and 10 pickup loads, bedrolls, tents, beer cans, garbage, trash, you name it, drug paraphernalia, and cleaned the place up. In fact, when the property was in escrow, it was prior to my ownership, that activity, some of those activities still continued. So we had to clean that up even before the close of escrow. And as soon as that happened, we fenced the property. We run livestock right next door, and we graze livestock there. Some of the concerns in the couple of letters that were read to you regarding stench, flies, stink from livestock, these cattle are dispersed. We're not running a feedlot there or dairy where you have a high density of livestock in one particular location. Those cattle come and go and on the rest of the ranch property. So that's the situation. When I bought the property, we fenced it, did what I just shared with you. Mr. Corbin got a hold of me along with Mr. Rikas and said, by the way, running livestock and having a barbed wire fence is illegal in the city of Cottonwood. And that was news to me. And he said, we can remedy this problem if we go through this process that we're going through now. So that's why I'm here, and request that you support our cause. And we think that we've added value and cleaned up the neighborhood, and it's increased the size of our ranch holdings. So with that, do you have any further questions?
I'll start off. How many, at any one time, how many cattle would you run on this parcel? Would you have any idea?
It adjoins another parcel, and there's anywhere between a dozen and 15 head of mature animals, cows and bulls, and then baby calves with them. Okay. But they're not confined just to that parcel. They come and go with the adjacent holdings. They come and go.
Okay. And are you going to do a lot of clearing of the brush and stuff, or basically
native vegetation? The way it is the way it is.
Much like your parcel up on Verde Heights and 89A?
Same situation.
Same situation. Okay. Any questions of Mr. Grosetta?
No, sir.
No.
No questions.
None here.
None here. Yeah, I think you've answered it. You know, you're not going to run a feed operation.
That's right.
Not going to be high density there. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Grosetta.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
All right. We have 3 folks who would like to talk, address the commission on this item. We're going to have a number on the next one also. So we'll limit your comments, please, to no more than 3 minutes. We hope you won't take that long. First one, Andy, and I'm going to butcher this name, Hertzkrot. Is Andy available? I'm sorry, Andy. Yes, I butchered your last name, I'm sure, sir. And if you'll give us your name, for the correct name for the record, please.
I'm Andy Hershkowitz. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association at Sawmill Cove. My 2 or 3 questions. Number one, this change was made sometime last year. Why is the hearing now? And does the hearing now mean that the possibility of a change for what has happened in the 6 or so months since that change was made? Generally, we're very happy for some of the reasons that were mentioned. The fencing is kept out. A lot of people were glad that they kept out, and it's a lot cleaner. So right now, I don't think I'm aware of any problem. The issue is, will use be greater? And I couldn't quite hear everything you just said. And also, will there be a feed trough there? And if so, what are the consequences of that?
Right.
But as of now, we're very happy.
Okay, thank you, sir. We appreciate your comments. Okay, next is Randy Osborne.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. Your name for the record, please.
Randy Osborne, and I'm the president of the Sawmill Gardens HOA, which is a group of 58 homes directly north of the land in question here. So I would just like to say that representing the 58 homes of Sawmill Gardens, we are not opposed at all to the issuance of the conditional use permit in any way, shape, or form. We think Mr. Grosetta has been a very honorable neighbor, good for the community, easy to work with. He's actually done a plus to that area as far as we are concerned, and we have no objections to it at all. I have discussed this with the board members of Sawmill Gardens, and we are unanimously in favor of issuing a permit, this conditional use permit. So, and I have a letter, formal letter stating that, so I would like to leave that with the commission, if that is okay.
That's fine. We really can't consider it, but that's fine. Just
Okay.
insert it in the record.
Should I give it to Scott?
But it's for support.
Pardon?
It's for support of the project.
Yes, we are in support of it, yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
A gentleman came in a little bit late. I'm not sure if he wants to speak or not, but he's in support of it as well. He did not, since he came in late, he didn't fill out a form.
Well, I'll open it up to him.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Thank you.
The next slip I have is from Electra Jung. You give us your name for the record, please.
Electra Young. I live at 2201 East Willow Tree Lane, and it's only around the corner from the property in question. My husband and I walk beyond that property nearly every day since the 8 years that we've been there, unless it's raining or too cold. And the whole property has been transformed, and in the biggest sense, it is now safe to walk past there. Not only were there transients, broken glass, or subsequent cars being parked there with people sleeping in it, we ran across elderly people walking their dogs as well, and they would ask, is it okay to go walk in there? Since it's been cleaned up, has livestock and what we consider the most beautiful, historic-looking fencing, a part of history of Arizona, a part of history that needs to be recognized and accepted and respected by Cottonwood. We are thrilled to have that property there, and the safety factor, the cleanliness factor is evident every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who would like to speak to this subject? Okay, very fine. Okay, sir, yes. Your name for the record, and if you'll fill out a form when you get through.
I didn't fill out a form, so may I still just have a minute?
Yes.
I'm with the HOA. I'm the vice president.
Fine. Your name, sir?
HOA at Sawmill Gardens.
What's your name?
My name is Alberto Salas.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir.
So I'll put in my 2 cents. And I have to agree with the lady that was here prior to us. It's made it a lot safer for us. We don't have the transients coming into our property, number one. It's done very well. As far as cattle grazing, I think we might also be confusing the cattle grazing with dairy farming, which can produce a lot of odors. I don't know of any cattle grazing that produces that. So I would be totally okay with the cattle grazing permit for Andy Grosetta, to be honest with you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We appreciate your comments. And everybody else, thank you very much. With that, I'm going to close the floor to the public. Commissioner Dow, your comments. And
I'll just say that in my line of work, I've dealt with this property quite a few times before Mr. Grosetta took it over. And since he's taken it over, it's much improved, and we've had zero issues. So I'm in favor of it, and I believe he's done the community right by taking this property and fencing it and using it for cattle grazing.
Mr. Maston.
I grew up in San Luis Obispo, California, and probably you guys haven't been there, but it's a small town, a little bigger than Cottonwood, but there's cattle grazing actually throughout it, and even though it's more built up than it is here, and it's actually a really beautiful kind of tapestry between the open land of the cattle grazing and the city. And so I support this very much. I think as Cottonwood continues to grow, having pockets of agriculture will help to give it character and breathing space in the built environment. So very much in favor.
Good, thank you. Mr. Sherman.
I would have to say I'm totally in favor of this as well. It sounds like it's been a positive move in the right direction, and I'm in for it.
Good. Vice Chairman, your comment, sir.
I would say that it appears as though we're playing by the book here. If anybody is concerned about the eventualities of what could happen with the property, going through this process has then put in the CUP so that if there is ever a problem, there is recourse for anybody in the community to try and deal with that regarding nuisances and things like that. I think that the history up to this point of that property back there is, I have a fair feeling that most people wouldn't know cows were not being grazed back there just behind that existing parcel. And now that it's there, people may not know it other than the fact that the announcement went out and this is taking place. So I have a feeling that it will be a positive, and it will help maintain the property, and it's obviously had its security improved, and there is quite a bit of support for it. So I don't really have any opposition at this point.
I've lived for 15 years adjacent to Mr. Grossetta's other parcel in Cottonwood, where he grazes cattle periodically at Verde Heights Drive and 89A. And I can say in all that time, I've never once heard anybody complain or had a complaint with that grazing. In fact, we sort of enjoy it once in a while when the cattle are there. We know they're there, and it helps clean up the low-lying weeds and brush, and that it's got a lot of mesquite. Helps clean that area up and improves the fire danger. So I think this is a real plus for that parcel down there as well. And particularly in their case, they've had a big vagrant problem, so apparently, so go from there. Mr. Vice Chairman, I would entertain a motion, please, sir.
Okie doke. I move to approve CUP 20-004 to allow Grossetta Ranches to keep its livestock and for the placement of barbed wire fencing subject to the following stipulations. That the project is developed in conformance with the development plans submitted for the June 15th, 2020 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and as may be further modified by the Planning and Zoning Commission. 2, that the project conforms to the Code Review Board comments dated May 12th, 2020, and any comments from prior, current, and future reviews of this project shall be adhered to. 3, the applicant shall be required to have a boundary survey conducted and shall submit those results to the city to confirm the proposed fence is not placed within the city's right-of-way. 4, the sewer line, I'm not sure how to, okay, sorry about this one. I meant to ask about that. Are we sure there is or isn't one? I know when reading through there was one, and then there was a comment that there wasn't one. Is this final and correct?
As far as I understand, the final is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
The sewer line is inside the fenced area. Utilities will need to work with the applicant for access. Allow City of Cottonwood Utilities to place a lock on the gate to prevent having to contact the applicant at different hours if there's a problem with the line. Number 5, applicant must abide by sections 404.0.2 and 418.c. That would be O.2 and 418.c.5 of the City of Cottonwood zoning ordinance regarding the keeping of livestock. Number 6, the City of Cottonwood reserves the right to revoke the conditional use permit if the use creates an irremediable public safety problem as determined by the city. 7, any other stipulations the Planning and Zoning Commissions deem necessary.
Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Dowell seconds the Vice Chairman's Motion, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Dow?
Aye.
Commissioner Maston?
Aye.
Commissioner Sherman?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Dowling?
Aye.
Chairman Williams?
Mr. Grosseto has a comment.
Just a point of clarification, that is not a sewer line. I notified staff, that's a manhole cover for the drainage pipe from the Safeway Shopping Center that runs to the corner of Cove Parkway and Cottonwood Street, and then it hangs a 90 and runs into that wash. So it's not a sewer, it's a manhole cover for a drainage pipe.
Okay.
Just point of clarification.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Yeah, I had read through that and read it, and then I just lost track of it when we went through it. So.
Okay, and my final vote is aye, unanimously carried. Good. Our next item is a conditional use permit 20005 and design review 20003 for the building and construction of a hotel, 535 South 6th Street, which is at 89A and 6th Street. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chairman Williams, members of the commission. As you stated, this is a conditional use permit and design review application by Spring Hill Suites by Marriott. Their intent is to construct a 3-story hotel consisting of 87 rooms and the affiliate facilities, pool, parking, etc. on the site. The site, as you said, is roughly at the northeast corner of 6th Street and State Route 89A. Currently, the property is in escrow with the applicant purchasing most, or about 2/3 of a parcel from the city of Cottonwood. The requirement for the conditional use permit, code requirement states 2.5 stories is the maximum height, or 35 feet. In this case, it is a 3-story building, thereby the requirement for the conditional use permit exceeding the 2.5 stories. As I said, it is currently about a 3.74 acre parcel. There is a requirement prior to them receiving building permits that property be officially split, where the ownership is identified between them and the remainder still with the city. This is a architectural rendering that would be, roughly seen from that intersection of 6th and 89A with the landscaping. This landscaping plan pretty closely does reflect what you'll see in a minute with the landscape, the actual landscape plan that was submitted. You can see 6th Street would be the main access to the site. And on the north side would be the remaining portion that the city is retaining. A couple of elevations with the materials. I have a material board here. Works a little better if you can see it, huh? So as you can see, they're mostly tan, earth tone colors and the brick facade. The landscaping plan, roughly encircling the project. It does, with what is submitted here, it does meet the code requirements for the city as far as quantity and size and type of landscape materials. Some of the surrounding properties, if you're looking at the site and then looking over the site to the east, looking along 6th Street to the north, looking across at 6th Street, and to the southwest across the intersection. and then to the north and looking south. There are a couple of stipulations I wanted to clarify, and well, one to clarify, one to add. The stipulation we would like to add is all exterior lighting is required to meet Section 408 of the City of Cottonwood Zoning Ordinance Lighting Code. Both these stipulations are in the Code Review Board comments that go back to a few months back when they went to through the Code Review Board process. We just wanted to reiterate that at the meeting and have that actually be as a stipulation. The other is that a traffic impact statement shall be developed and submitted to the city for review and approval, identifying any roadway mitigation requirements. We have that is a stipulation from Public Works, the City Public Works, as well as correspondences we have received from ADOT regarding what they would like to see and their requirements as far as a traffic impact statement. So when the motion is read, I can help with the wording of that.
Do we have that written somewhere?
I
throw it at me
here,
already.
yes. So with that, that concludes what I have to say this evening. Are there any questions?
Yes. Question, Jim. What's the maximum heights limitation?
35 feet.
And 35 feet now to what? The top parapet or to the roof line, or?
It's to the highest point of the building. There are exceptions that would allow electrical equipment or minor details to extend above that 35 feet.
To the roof line,
35
right?
feet is to the
So
roof line.
not including the parapet?
Correct.
Okay.
There is a little bit of a parapet on this building, which is a minor portion of the building.
And it seems like this says the height to the roof is 7.5 inches.
Correct.
So it's within the height. It's just with this 2.5 story
yes.
code thing. All right. Very fine. I don't have any other questions. Do you? Commissioner Dow, any questions of Jim?
No, my only concern would be that if the fire department's good with it, and if they're good with it like it states that they are, then I don't have any issue with it.
No questions at this time.
Any questions of Jim?
I have no questions.
Any
Not at the moment.
questions? Other than our stipulations?
Yeah, right. Other than that.
All right. Who's representing a applicant tonight, sir?
I'll let them take over with any questions.
Sorry, I couldn't hear back there, so I'm not sure if...
Yeah, we're not real happy with the sound situation here. Your name for the record, please.
Brian Welker with Sunridge Hotel Group.
Good. And you want to talk to us a little bit about the project?
Sure. Well, our company, we've been doing this for 35 years, and so we're primarily a Marriott developer. We've selected a Marriott Spring Hill Suites, which is a all-suites property, larger rooms. We feel like it'll be a good asset to the community, and we do need 3 stories though, so we need to make that exception and get a little bit higher on the project. I'm still in business, believe it or not, after COVID. So anyway, we're proceeding ahead and we're excited to develop it. So
okay. Any questions?
No, sir.
No.
Any questions? All right.
No.
Vice Chairman?
None.
Vice Chairman? No, the only thing I was concerned with the height. It looks like you're within the 35 feet to the roof line, and
no, well, the highest
goes up to about 40, but that's to the parapets.
Right. Okay. 41 feet is the
Yeah,
total.
yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. Okay. No, I really looking over the plans and the site and so forth, and the putting that driveway back along 6th Street. Was that a city thing, or did you want to
I think it was more dealing with ADOT on the right-of-way there.
Right away, they
89A,
didn't want you
and-
that close?
Yeah, and it just seemed, and our property kind of comes to a point on 6th Street there.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes out, so yeah, we had to come in off of 6th Street somewhere, and actually we just moved it back a little bit, which is probably better it lines up with that back drive, better for big trucks that come in or fire trucks or whatever.
Right. And then you have an exit going to the north parcel for connection to a future development?
To a future development, yeah.
Possibly connected?
Possibly, yeah. Right now, there's an empty yard right there, so I don't know.
Right. Yeah, the city owns.
Oh, yeah, the city owns
Yeah,
that
still
parcel,
owns,
too.
okay.
Hopefully you'll put a restaurant or something nice back there.
All right. Very good, sir. I think, fine, we might get back to you. If you looked over the stipulations, do you have any concerns with any of the stipulations over the approval tonight?
I don't think so. No,
Okay.
I think we're good.
Real fine, sir. If we need you, we'll call you back up. Thank you.
All right, you bet. Thank you.
All right, I have several folks who'd like to talk to us. Rose Ortiz Unra. And if you'll keep your comments to about 3 minutes or less, we'd appreciate it. Rose, welcome back.
How are you? My name is Rose Ortiz Unruh, and I'm here actually with my father, Tony Ortiz. He owns a property just to the north of this project. So there's one parcel in between us and the project. My concern is mostly with the zoning. As you know, that is a heavy industrial area, I-2, and it's a very kind of small pocket of I-2 in the city limits. You have to go all the way over to the airport, for other heavy industrial areas. And so my concern is to have a hotel there. It's a very nice project, appropriate in its location in terms of vicinity to 89A, looks beautiful, but we're just concerned about any noise that would come from the heavy industrial area, that we might get some complaints, because people are staying in a hotel. You ever stay in a hotel and not get a good night's sleep because of noise? And so our concern is preserving the heavy industrial zoning in that area. It's a very small pocket. Thank
Very
you.
Good. Excellent comments. Jerry Levitt.
Hi. For the record, my name is Jerry Levitt. I own the property immediately adjacent to this to the north, and of course I'm with Rose on that. I have heavy industrial property, and I've owned it for 12 years. My dad owned it before me. We manufacture stuff. We make noise. We have deliveries, trucks, tractors, and it's zoned for it. And I would just hate to lose that with somebody in the third floor of a hotel looking out over the spa and seeing somebody loading tractors or welding on something or sandblasting something. It just doesn't seem to fit. My question is, and I have a lot more questions after seeing, I didn't realize they're doing a split on this. I thought they were developing all the way up to my parcel.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm going to have the questions, how wide is the split? I heard future development of the split parcel. Are they purchasing the whole thing? Questions you guys probably don't know the answers to.
We've got some city people here who could probably answer. I think it's about, they're going to take about 2/3 of that parcel, and the other third will remain by the city.
And the city's going to keep that parcel? Do they
or eventually sell it, I would assume.
And so this zoning would not affect that parcel that the city retains?
Yeah, clarification, as I understand, this is within the zoning, allowable zoning. We're just talking about, the things we're concerned about tonight are two things. One, going from a 2.5-story to a 3-story building, and the design review of the project. The permitted use is already permitted within that.
See, and I question that.
Yeah.
But is it an extended stay, or is it just rent a room by the night?
We can ask the applicant. I think it's more of a, my understanding is it's more of a daily use hotel.
because I know industrial doesn't allow any residential use.
No.
Wouldn't a hotel be residential use was my question, I guess.
No, not, it's a commercial use.
Okay.
They're not apartments, no.
Okay, so they're not purchasing the split piece, so that changes a lot of my questions and stuff, 'cause I didn't realize that until tonight. I agree with Rose, it's a beautiful piece of property. The height restriction, I probably wouldn't oppose that at all, but I do have some concerns as far as, am I going to be under the magnifying glass? Is my property now going to have complaints against it as soon as they get this done? And what we've had for 30 or 40 years, we won't be able to do anymore. Also, there's an issue with water and drainage across that property that I'm sure some of the other guys are going to bring up. It doesn't flow towards my property when they do their a hotel going into industrial property, since we have so little of it in Cottonwood, and I would not oppose the third floor if it came down to that.
Very fine. Thank you, Jerry. We appreciate your comments.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
I can clarify some of those.
Yes, would you please,
questions.
sir?
So yes, it is zoned I2, heavy industrial. The I2 zone allows anything that's permitted in the C2 zone as a permitted use, and hotels are part of that.
Yes.
So it doesn't need anything separate than that.
Right.
The property will be split, and the city is going to maintain ownership of it. It's my understanding, and Mr. Corbin can correct me, that eventually it will be looked at to be put up for sale for another development to go in adjacent to the hotel.
What is the size of the remaining parcel, approximately?
I believe it's approximately 2 acres.
2 acres left? And this side is how many acres? I was just trying to, I don't recall, I know I saw it.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to look into it. I think it's about 2 acres itself. 2.2.
2.24, so it's about a half of that property. So half will remain vacant for now, depending on what the city does with it later. All right. And again, we're here for the conditional use permit for the heights. It already meets the zoning requirements.
Correct.
And the design review. So those are the items we're really discussing tonight. Scott Stokes. Is Scott here? Yes, sir. Your name for the record, please.
My name is Scott Stokes, and my biggest concern is that I'm like Jerry. I've been in the building down there since 1984, and we manufacture cabinets, so we make a lot of noise. We try to control our dust, but we have dust. We have smells from our lacquers that come out of there. Even though we put filters and we do what the city has asked us, there's still going to be some things out. We don't want to worry about later on that we're going to be rezoned, or they're going to come back in and say, sorry, you guys can't do this. My major concern is where is the water going to go from their parking lot when it rains? Now, when they did a bunch of engineering up here by the airport, and they came in and flattened out that entire area, they took away all the natural drainage that was coming off of that mountain, okay? They were supposed to divert that into the Silver Springs Wash, which it didn't happen. And so consequently down Cottonwood Street over here off of 6th Street, there's 2 water retention ponds there. Both of them fill up, both of them overflow, both of them flood Cottonwood Street, come across, go into a catch basin by what used to be County Bank, flow through 2 6-foot culverts underneath 89A, come by my shop, and it's condensed to a 2-foot culvert. Now tell me where the water is going to go. It goes right through my building. I've been flooded at least a dozen times in the last 3 years. So it's not a lot of fun when you show up for work in the morning and you've got 2 inches of water sitting in your cabinet shop. So I would like to know, where's the water going? Where's the retention pond? How are they going to divert that much water under 89A to get it to Silver Springs Wash? Not only am I flooded out, but Bedrock, the gas station below Bedrock, and all of Bedrock's service buildings catch it every year. And so those are my concerns, is I just need to know where's the water, and will we have a problem down the road as far as complaints, and are they going to restructure us? Like I said, I've been there 36 years. I'm really not looking to go anywhere. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Fred Heyman. Your name for the record, please, sir.
My name is Fred Heyman. My industrial property is 506 South 7th Street. I have a common border with the proposed project, which I think is a beautiful project. It will do Cottonwood very nicely with some beautification. My concern is exactly what Scott just voiced. Back in the day when Mr. Mickelson was the manager of the city of Cottonwood, we had a significant rain event up by the airport, which came down and it took out his manufacturing, my 4,000 square foot building, with water flowing through the building to the tune of about 3 to 4 inches. It took us days and a lot of loss of our material that we had stored in that building. It was not a one and only type of event. It seems to happen to a greater or minor degree every monsoon season. We have a significant flood event that comes down. There's been times when I've gone over to the Stokes' building, helped them muck out their water, and there's been times when they have come over to my building and helped me muck out mine. And it's because the drainage from the airport down continually goes down from large culverts to smaller culverts to a very small culvert that goes down beside Bedrock Landscape, down to the gas station, which is below it. Cottonwood has a vested interest in this. Cottonwood's fire, police, utilities, and any other thing that they get gasoline from gets filled up from that gas station. We have another significant event like we've had back in the day that Mr. Mickelson was here. You will lose a significant portion of that because the water has been funneled down. And if you know anything about water, the smaller the orifice that you funnel that water through, the faster it flows. The faster it flows, the more abrasive it is. So until the city of Cottonwood gets up and decides to go through and do some hydrology and fixing of the downstream water, you put another non-permeable membrane where this hotel is going to go, you're going to add fuel to the fire. Well, maybe that's a wrong analogy, but you're going to add more water to the problem. So the city of Cottonwood has got to look at how they can get that water back to Silver Springs Wash without adding any more volume.
Very good comment, sir. Thank you. We appreciate that. That's a very important issue. Anybody else would like to speak on this? James, can you answer some of these questions?
Just sort of
or
to
attempt
clarify, they are required to comply with the code review board comments that was a staff level review. One of the engineering requirements that came out of that, a drainage report will be required to validate the stormwater runoff calculations included in the grading and drainage plan. The pre versus post condition shall show a 25% reduction in stormwater runoff leaving the site. So Spring Hill is required to contain or allow 25% less to leave after construction than it currently is now. So I just wanted to
What are their plans to do that? Do you have any knowledge of that? What is the plan for them to meet that requirement?
Their drainage and grading plan.
They've actually got a 95-inch diameter culvert, which will be buried. A subsurface retention basin is what the plans indicate to me. So it'll be almost a 95-foot long, 10-foot diameter culvert buried below their parking area in order to catch some of the flow. And then there are also 2 surface retention basins, which they indicate here on the plans. So they are doing a pretty good a pretty good amount of mitigation in order to manage their stormwater runoff in their plans here. So, I mean, these plans aren't usually sent out to everybody to look at, but yeah, I did look that over specifically because that's partly what I do. And they do seem to be doing what they need to do per state statute in order to limit their flow off of the site.
Very good.
And I know that there are pre-existing historic issues, but I don't know that I don't know that we're here to saddle the new development with those issues as long as they conform and manage their flow and reduce it by the 25% mandated. So I think that could be a positive.
Mr. City Manager.
Yes, sir.
There's some plans in the works for rebuilding 6th Street from 89A down to Mingus at some point?
Yes, sir.
And is that going to help mitigate these flooding problems in addition to
I'll
improving
save
the
that
street?
for our stormwater manager and our city engineer once they come on board, but that's the ultimate goal, to help improve that area and the flow of water in that area. That is the current plans.
Yeah, because it seems to be a definite problem. We've heard this before along that area. So
yes, sir.
We would strongly encourage the city to help mitigate that because we could sure appreciate, that problem. So apparently they're going to be required to reduce the flow, any flow off the water, that project, 25% less than what it is today. So to meet state requirements. Yes, sir. One more comment.
My only comment is we have an existing problem. If you add to it, even though they are able to retain a good portion of it, when they become full and it has to spill over and go someplace, where does it go?
Yeah.
All I want to say.
Any staff have any answer to that? No. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Public? Yes, Jerry, real quick. Can we come up to the podium, please?
Step up. Yeah, thank you.
We need to record this, so, and also the microphone.
Jerry Levitt again. I would like to say that I had said I had no problem with 3 stories, but it just came to mind, 3 stories, 1/3 more people, parking spaces. That just added to the problem of the water. And I've seen that wash run that they're building on top of. I don't see how you could keep 25% of that plus your own water. So and I'm not an engineer, but that would just be a concern, is adding the additional parking spaces involved.
Yeah, they're going to have to make
adding
provisions with the city engineer to make sure that they are complying with that, though. Yes, yes,
Okay.
sir. As far, okay, I'm going to close the floor to the public. One comment I'd like to make is your concerns about your industrial uses being impacted. You're in an I-2 zone. The city can't arbitrarily come along and downzone you, without your permission. That's against the state law. They've tried that in other cities over the years, and they passed state statute. They can't, you can do what you can do in I-2 as long as you're meeting, your existing noise and pollution standards for an I-2 zone. I don't think there's any question that they can alter that just because this project's going there. You should be safe from that happening. Not that somebody couldn't sell one of those parcels along there and come in for rezoning, but they'd have to come in again with a use, or it's permitted, or rezone down the road. So we'll see what that happens. Maybe it won't. Commissioner Dow, your comments and questions, concerns?
My concerns would be the water also. I know that I've seen some significant rain events here, and my family and I talk about a couple because we have some properties along some of those. So I completely understand the water issues. And again, if they're supposed to keep 25% of it, or reduce it by 25%, I hope that that happens according to the plans. I understand your argument also, or your concerns about the industrial complaints coming in from the industrial area, because you're doing what you do, and that's why it's an industrial area. So I would hope that if there was an issue, that the hotel would work with the other people or your neighbors next to you to figure out a good solution for that. But with that said, that's not something that this committee looks at anyway. Right. It's already a zone. There's nothing we can do about that. I will also agree with you that I really like the project, and I think it's going to help bring that corner up to 6 and 89A.
Commissioner Maston.
I also share some concerns about the water. It just seems like, from what everybody's expressing, that there's occasionally a fire hose that goes off, and it just has to go somewhere. And I'm looking at this, and I see a lot of mitigation strategies, but I want to say to the people who came in tonight, I understand we are kind of crossing our fingers a little bit. Like, you can't know exactly how hard it's going to rain. So it does look like there's effort going in. It looks like if everything goes well, that it will actually help with some of the water issues. Regarding the height requirement, I think as long as that super tall spot is just the parapet, I think it's fine. I think it's an attractive building, and it won't detract from its neighbors at all.
Good. Commissioner Sherman.
I would also be concerned with the stormwater runoff. I would think that before a building were to begin, all that would have to be taken into consideration. But it's a gorgeous project. I think Cottonwood will really prosper from that in many ways. It's beautiful, and bring more people into the county and over this way. So I don't really have any problem with the 3 stories. I think it'll be softened by some of the landscape, and hopefully the people that are there, they probably won't be staying too long, 1 or 2 days or whatever, but I don't think the businesses down the street should really worry about anything. People come and go and so forth, so anyway, I think it's a great project.
Vice Chairman.
Let's see. Well, yeah, I know that that corner has sort of been the redheaded stepchild of corners in Cottonwood for a long time, waiting for things to fill it in. I spent some time on city council, and always sort of what are we going to do with that piece of property? It is good to see something going in there. I know there are concerns over what's going to go in, but as long as they're playing by the rules and following the engineering guidelines, standards, state statutes, they can only do what they can do. And if there are existing issues going on with the city and with drainage, I think that those probably need to be, we need to not forget about them after tonight. And the people who are concerned and who are dealing with the effects of that, I would probably make sure that people don't forget about it after tonight, and make sure that maybe it gets addressed. I know that drainage is a long-standing issue, and as we all know, it rolls downhill, and the people at the bottom usually end up getting it. So there's ways around that, and it's just going to take some concerted effort to make sure it is dealt with. From what I can tell in my review and my experience in this, they're doing what they can in order to mitigate their output. So I don't know that I can really justify holding them up above something that they should have to do moving ahead, although this is only, again, for the height change and the design review, not the actual engineering and drainage. That is kind of, I guess as they say, above our pay grade. And the engineers who do this, their stamp is on it. They carry errors and omissions insurance. If you get flooded, you should have some recourse at some point, and that's how it's supposed to work. That said, I think that filling in that area is going to be a good thing. Infill is kind of where we're going to have to go as a city, seeing as we have our exterior boundaries are kind of limited, and growth is sort of a double-edged sword when you start to expand. So doing some infill is probably going to be a better option, and this, I think, suits that and does conform with kind of the general plan that we've been putting together and going forward with over time. So along that, it does seem to win out on the balance of those topics.
Very good. I would second that. I don't think this property owner should be held to solving the flooding problems along 6th Street. They definitely need to help, mitigate them and the best they can and be part of the solution, but not totally. The city of Cottonwood's got to address that. That's, that's their purview. They need to continue to work on that, and hopefully with the rebuilding of that street, maybe some additional improvements can be made. It's really a hard problem to overcome overall. As far as the conditional use permit, I've been asking for 3 years where this 2.5-story requirement came up. I do not know of one. Nobody identified another 2.5-story building in Cottonwood. This comes from antiquated zoning ordinances back when they used to recess apartment houses down in the valley and a half-story and then go up 2 stories, I guess. It's sort of ludicrous to me that we have to require somebody to come before and have a hearing and pay a fee to get that approval from 2.5, 3 stories, as long as they're within the height limitations and meet the fire codes. Those are the important things, and they have done that in this case. Overall, I think it's an outstanding project for this site. We need some more development like this to help and assist with our tourism, for people to stay and have a good project to stay. This is well designed, should be very attractive. I hear you when you say you're industrial users. You don't want to be, all of a sudden, because somebody complains from the hotel. I don't think they should have any standing to complain unless you're violating really bad what's going on with the existing requirements. So I'm very much in favor of this project going forward. Vice Chairman, would you make a motion, please, sir?
Sure. Do I need to incorporate the revised, updated, and all those goodies? I'll get halfway through. Okay. Fantastic. All right. I'll move to approve CUP 20-005 and DR 20-003 to allow Santan Hotel Partners to exceed the allowable height requirements, subject to the following stipulations. That the project is developed in conformance with the development plans submitted for the June 15th, 2020 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and as may be further modified by the Planning and Zoning Commission. 2, that the project conforms to the Code Review Board comments dated May 15th, 2020, and any comments from prior, current, and future reviews of this project shall be adhered to. 3, a certificate of zoning compliance documenting the completion of conditions shall be issued prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. 4, right-of-way permit to be obtained from the Public Works Department prior to any work or landscaping done in the right-of-way. 5, identify a minimum of 9 bicycle parking spaces to be located on the parcel. 6, building permits shall be applied for within 1 year from the date of approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission, or the conditional use permit shall be subject to revocation procedures. 7, a minor land division shall be completed prior to the issuance of building permits. 8, comply with all ADOT requirements as noted in the email received May 26, 2020 to obtain a right-of-way permit. In addition, the ADOT District Development Engineer and Northern Regional Transport will request that the city's review requirements include a traffic impact statement following the ADOT traffic engineering guidelines and procedures, TGP 240 Exhibit A. At a minimum, the SA 89-6th Street intersection be evaluated for a level of service and delays and also include turning lanes analysis. 9, the City of Cottonwood reserves the right to revoke the conditional use permit if the use creates an irremediable public safety problem as determined by the city. 10, all exterior lighting is required to meet Section 408 of the City of Cottonwood Zoning Ordinance Lighting Code. 12, a traffic impact statement shall be developed and submitted to the city for review and approval, identifying any roadway mitigation requirements. And I will say 12, there's 12, 10, 11, 12. Any other stipulations the Planning and Zoning Commission deems necessary.
Do I have a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Give Mr. Sherman. Seconds to Vice Chairman's motion. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Dow.
Aye.
Commissioner Maston.
Aye.
Commissioner Sherman.
Aye.
Vice Chairman Dowling.
Aye.
Chairman Williams.
Aye. Unanimously carried. Everybody, thank you for coming. We appreciate your comments and your concerns. It's great to have people come to our meetings finally. Next order of business is a ZO 20002 amendment to sections 201 to the code for tiny homes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gary Davis with the Community Development Department. As you know, the zoning code right now is silent on the issue of tiny houses. If someone was to come to us and ask, where can I put a tiny house, we don't have a place where we can point them. So that's the idea behind putting together a new code amendment. You saw a previous version of this several months ago and recommended approval of it. It went to the City Council. City Council had some concerns on it, directed it back to staff to do some more work on it, which we have done. We found an approach that they used in Pima County that we thought made a lot of sense. Instead of creating a new regulation for tiny houses, what they did was direct people to which existing regulations governed the particular type of tiny house depending on which type of a structure or a vehicle it was. And that's the approach we've taken here, is to basically describe a tiny house as anything under 400 square feet, whether it's a vehicle, whether it's a structure for temporary or permanent residential use, that is a tiny house. So there are three basic types. The first type would be a recreational vehicle type. Second is something that would be considered a manufactured home. And the third would be a site built. So depending on which one of those types you have, that would determine which type of zone, which type of development you'd be allowed to go in. So to illustrate the different types, just to make it really clear, the first type is brought in from off-site. It's on wheels, it's got a chassis, it is an RV. If it's under 400 square feet, it's got wheels and a chassis, it's an RV. Where can that go? It can go in RV parks. That's it. Pretty simple. Second type, also brought in from off-site, but take the wheels off and put the chassis down on a foundation. Then we treat it more like a mobile home, or excuse me, a manufactured home, and then this would have to meet codes for manufactured homes, or possibly single-family site-built homes, depending on which code they can meet by the manufacturer of that home. That can go as a manufactured house, like any other manufactured home. Could go as a primary residence in the R4 zone and the MH zones. And it could also go as a guest house in the agriculture zones and the residential zones, or the CR, which is commercial residential. And then could go as a conditional use guest house in AR20 and the R1 zones. And those are zones that currently require a conditional use permit for a guest house. So it's not changing a lot of things around. Third type, this is site built from the ground up. This is going to be allowed as it is now. We don't have any minimum sizes on houses, so you could build one of these right now as a primary residence in the agriculture zones and the residential zones. You could also build it as a guest house in GA, AR70, AR43, and the CR zone, commercial residential. And again, guest houses are conditional uses in AR20 and R1 zones, and this would be included in that as well. And again, that would be allowed today because we have no minimum sizes for site-built homes. This site-built type would be built to International Residential Code, our building code that we follow. And the current version of the International Residential Code, the 2018, has what's called Appendix Q, and it's specifically for tiny houses. So if you build a house that's site-built that otherwise meets the IRC, that gives you some flexibility in terms of stairway slopes, ceiling heights for lofts, things like that, that aren't generally allowed in a house that's greater than 400 square feet. So the guest house definition, and we would not change this, I just wanted to make it clear. Yes, sir.
Back up one for me.
There we go.
All right. But also site built, it could be built as a modular home off-site and brought to the site if it
Correct.
meets the international codes, right?
Yes, modular homes.
It doesn't have to be built on-site.
Right, modular homes, anything that meets the IRC can meet this as well, and that's also one of the things that we're working on in our definition too, is to clarify that factory-built homes, which is the term we use in our code, which is modular, that is that's something that falls within this site-built category.
Thank you.
So our current definition of guest house, which we would be keeping, it's an accessory building, and it's used by the occupants of the premises, family members and their guests. It can have sleeping areas, sanitary facilities, and even have separate cooking facilities, but it's for family members at the primary residence. And it's also, the said use shall be clearly secondary and subordinate in size and location. So in other words, it's not as big as the house, it's not out front, it's definitely subordinate. And this would remain the same with these tiny house amendments. And cannot be offered as a separate rental unit. So you can't rent it out, you can't have a separate utility service. It is part of the house, it's just separate from the house. So what we're proposing here is changing our general provisions, describing those three types of tiny houses that I just showed you, changing our definitions to add a new definition of tiny house, the 400 square foot, and single-family dwelling, factory-built building, which is what I mentioned earlier, and adding some specificity to the RV section, describing in more detail what is an RV. And then in each zoning classification, clarifying that tiny house can be a primary residence or a guest house in permitted and conditional uses listed for each zone. So again, that's the three basic types of tiny houses, and we would use the existing regulations for each one depending on which standard it fell under. That's all I have for a presentation. Happy to entertain any questions.
Commissioner Dell, any questions, sir?
Well, I'm glad the council didn't approve our last one, because honestly, I have a pea brain, and I had a hard time wrapping my brain around what we did last time.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of like, well, can we do this, and can we do that, and what about this? And honestly, this right here this is brilliant. So I really like this. Very definitive.
Ms. Smith.
I think this is good. I come down on the side of pro tiny house and also on the side of homeowners being able to improve their properties however they want within reason. And I think that this does a good job of setting the standards in a very understandable way, and probably a good job of preventing people from parking RVs by their houses. So,
Mr. Chairman.
I thought this was a great presentation. It was very easy to understand. Was something that could be kind of complicated at times, trying to understand all of it. The one question I had was, is there a particular minimum size lot with a house already on it that you could build a guest house? Or how do you determine the size, the size of the property that you could put something like that on?
It would depend on the individual zone.
Okay.
Commissioner Sherman, some zones do require a minimum lot size before you could put a guest house. Not all of them, but some of them do.
Okay.
But that's already in the zone, in the zoning code, and we wouldn't change that.
Okay.
Vice Chairman, sir.
It looks pretty good. I've long wanted to have some development and some moving forward on that option because I've lived the situation where sometimes a regular size house isn't what you need. And to have that option for people might actually help a few more people stay around in the area and infill the city again, you know, in that fashion, because we have areas to infill. So I think it takes a good step towards doing that.
Yeah, this is a good clarification. That last go around, it was a little convoluted. I think we sort of all walked away. The idea, though, we were in favor of the ability to build tiny homes in our community. Concerns about minimum square footage are going to affect residential subdivisions and whatever. Well, you know, who's arbitrarily decide what's the minimum square footage? You know, that's very subjective. So I think this answers it by restricting on what types can go in, so they would be compatible with the other houses in the area. They may not be as big, but I don't see them going into a gated community and tearing down another house and putting a tiny house on it. So I don't have a color. No, this hopefully this will meet the approval of the council. I know a couple of them raised questions about square footage, but this clarifies it very well. I think so.
Thank you. And we did take it back to council before we came here a couple weeks ago, and they understood it and it alleviated their concerns that they had.
So we're a little ahead of the game. That's good. All right. I'll entertain a motion, Mr. Vice Chairman.
I'll go ahead and throw one out there. I move to recommend approval to the City Council amendments to the Section 404 General Provisions, creating Section CC Tiny Houses, with related text amendments to Sections 201, 410, 411, 412, 413, 416, 417, 420, and 425 regarding the requirements for placement of tiny houses within the city of Cottonwood.
Do I have a second to that motion, please?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Dowell seconds the Vice Chairman's motion. Cassidy, or a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Dowell?
Aye.
Commissioner Maston?
Aye.
Commissioner Sherman?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Dowling?
Aye.
Chairman Williams?
Aye. Unanimously carried. Good work. All right, on to our next one. Another amendment to the zoning code for ZO 2005 for outdoor lighting. Gary?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this is a fix that we found that we needed to make in our outdoor lighting code regarding lumens. This isn't working, but basically we have a situation where for residential zones, we have a number of lumens per square foot or per acre, but when you get down to smaller lot sizes, like under a half acre, then the lumens, when you do that calculation, get very, very small. And we've had a number of developers ask us about that, if there's a way to make that, put a floor on that so they can still put effective lighting on houses that are on smaller lots. And that's the impetus behind this. And the level that we proposed there is something that we've done some research on. Our staff has talked with developers as well as looked at other municipal codes in the area, and found that that particular level is something that we can live with, that Dark Sky can live with, and still be something that the developers feel is a good lighting level for their small lot development. So that's it in a nutshell.
Mr. Dow, any questions?
No, as long as it's been the dark sky limitations, I'm good with it. I moved up here for that purpose because I like the darkness. I like to be able to walk out my yard and look at the stars. But I also understand the point of, for development, you gotta have safety issues too. You know, you gotta have some lights. So I think this is a good compromise, and I'm for it.
Commissioner Maston.
I just wanted to ask if there's anything, I didn't see anything about direction, because there's lumens and then there's also covers and direction of the light towards the ground.
We don't make any change on direction. It's just the level.
Okay.
Direction is already.
It's already set, so you can't go up, so it doesn't change any of that?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
This only changes the lumen level.
All right.
Any standards we've got on direction stay the same.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Commissioner Maston, that is correct. We do already have in the ordinance and other parts of the lighting code, all lighting has to be pointed down.
Okay.
Mr. Sherman.
I don't have any questions.
Vice Chair?
Okay.
None here.
None here. I see we have a whole couple builders here. Do they have any comments on this? Would like to address it? Yes. Yeah, come on up to the podium, Mr. Backus.
4,500, it says.
Is there a lumen count on that
It says
half acre?
4,500.
2,500?
4,500.
4,500, okay. I didn't see that on the piece of paper here in my hand. That's why I didn't. Okay, I got it. Thanks. That's all I
Okay,
need.
okay. Very good. All right, I'll close the floor. No other comments? Commissioner Dow. Okay, a lot of dark sky.
I think we're good.
Good?
I'm good.
Good. Vice Chairman, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll entertain making one. I move to recommend approval to the City Council amendments to Section 408, outdoor lighting regarding the requirements for lighting on lots smaller than 1/2 acre.
Okay, do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Commissioner Maston seconds that motion for the Vice Chairman. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Dow?
Aye.
Commissioner Maston?
Aye.
Commissioner Sherman?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Dowling?
Aye.
Chairman Williams?
Aye, unanimously carried. All right. Mr. Director, we have any discussion items or suggest topics for future meetings? Or?
No, sir. No, Mr. Chairman, I don't have anything.
We have some things in the work for July. Yes, sir.
How are we looking, or has that project off of 89A and Candy across the street, you know, I'm talking about the apartment complex? I know that it was getting to the point where they were coming to a deadline. Have they met that deadline yet?
I have not heard any update on that project other than they're still moving forward.
Okay,
just at
so it's
very
not dead?
slow- Not that I've been told.
Okay.
Mr. Manager, any input on that from your?
Mr. Chairman, it's Cottonwood. Anything's possible. It's unknown right now. Is it absolutely dead? No. But it's not really moving right now.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Things? We've got some things in the pipeline for next month.
Yes, we do have a couple of things lined up for
Okay.
July.
Very good. All right. Any other comments, concerns? If not, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody.